Ever wonder what you'd do with $1 billion? How about stealing it from the internet's most notorious black market? One college kid totally did it. He spotted a glitch, clicked a button, and boom, he became an instant crypto billionaire. But his story didn't end there. In fact, that's where the real trouble began. This is how one of the biggest Bitcoin heists in history unraveled because of one single stupid mistake. The year is 2012. The internet has a dark hidden corner called the Silk Road. It's an anonymous marketplace where you can buy almost anything. And its creator, a man known as Ross William, is getting very rich. Meet Jimmy Jong, a computer science student from Georgia. Jimmy wasn't a drug lord or a weapons dealer. He was just a guy who loved coding and video games. And he had found a secret, a flaw in the Silk Road's code. Imagine you're at an ATM. You ask for $100, and the machine gives it to you. But before your balance updates, you quickly ask for another $100, and another, and another. The machine keeps spitting out cash, but your account balance only drops by the first $100. That's essentially what Jimmy discovered. He found a bug in the Silk Road's deposit and withdrawal system. By double-clicking the withdraw button really fast, he could trick the system into sending him multiple payments for a single transaction. So, he created 9 different accounts. He deposited a small amount of Bitcoin. Then, using that double-click trick, he'd withdraw that same 500 Bitcoin, but multiple times, into his other accounts before the system could catch up. It was like a digital money printer. In a matter of seconds, he siphoned over 50,000 Bitcoin from the Silk Road. At the time, Bitcoin's value was low, but Jimmy knew he was sitting on a digital gold mine. He was playing a very dangerous game. What could possibly go wrong when you've just stolen from the most powerful criminals on the dark web? While Jimmy was quietly building his empire, the FBI was closing in on the Silk Road itself. In 2013, they shut it down and arrested its founder. The dark web's biggest marketplace was gone. For Jimmy, this was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, the place he robbed no longer existed. On the other hand, the US government now possessed all of the Silk Road's transaction records. Every digital footprint was now evidence in a massive federal investigation. Jimmy knew he had to be careful. He moved his 50,000 Bitcoin into what's called a cold wallet, a tiny offline hard drive, no bigger than a pack of gum. This kept it disconnected from the internet, safe from hackers, and he hoped from the government. With his fortune secured, Jimmy started living the life. He threw lavish parties, flew his friends around the world on private jets, and bought luxury cars and real estate. He created shell companies to try and launder the money, making it look legitimate. To the outside world, he was just a young, successful tech entrepreneur. But behind the scenes, he was living a lie, constantly looking over his shoulder. For years, it seemed like he had gotten away with it. The world moved on, and Bitcoin's value exploded in 2017. It hit nearly $20,000 per coin. Jimmy's stolen stash was now worth $1 billion. He was one of the wealthiest Bitcoin holders on the planet, and nobody knew. But wealth like that attracts attention. And sometimes, the biggest threat isn't the FBI, but the person you see in the mirror. How could a man so brilliant at covering his digital tracks make a mistake so simple it would bring his entire world crashing down? The answer is almost unbelievable. In 2019, Jimmy Jong called 911. He reported a burglary at his home. He told the police that someone had broken in and stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, along with some personal items, including a flash drive. Why would a man sitting on $1 billion secret call the police over a few $100,000? It was a fatal error in judgment. That 911 call put him on the radar of local law enforcement, who were naturally suspicious about the sheer amount of cash he had just lying around his house. This local police report eventually caught the attention of federal investigators, specifically the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit. They were still hunting for the missing Silk Road Bitcoin. They started digging into this mysterious character, Jimmy Jong. They connected the dots back to the original Silk Road heist from years earlier. They had their man on a quiet day in November 2021. Federal agents raided his house. At first, they found nothing. They searched his home for hours, turning up luxury goods and cash, but not the billions in Bitcoin they were looking for. They were about to leave empty, but then one agent noticed something odd. Tucked away inside a popcorn tin, hidden under blankets in a bathroom closet, was a tiny single-board computer, a hard drive smaller than a credit card. They had found it, the cold wallet containing over 50,000 Bitcoin, worth over $3 billion at the time. It was one of the largest cryptocurrency seizures in history. Jimmy Jong, the secret billionaire, The ghost who haunted the Silk Road was finally caught. In 2022, he was sentenced to a year in prison. The government confiscated all his assets. The wild ride was over. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Some reports suggest that after his release, because of his unique skills, he might have been recruited by a U.S. cyber agency, turning his talents from crime to national security. We can't confirm that, but it's a wild thought. So, what can we learn from all this? First, being a technical genius doesn't mean you can outsmart the law forever. And second, no matter how clever your plan is, a simple mistake born from arrogance can undo everything. In the end, Jimmy Jung's biggest weakness wasn't a line of code, it was his own human error. Let me know in the comments what you think was his sentence fair. See you in the next one.